Hello and welcome to the big picture. The spate of findings by the CAG about irregularities in awarding contracts and performance of various government departments and ministries have filled the media space for quite some time now. The number of scams both in the center and states apparently uncovered by the CAG has almost led to paralysis of the government functioning. With allegations of corruption being high on the minds of people, a situation has been created where every contract awarded or decision taken is seen with suspicion. Worried over being charged later of incurring losses or worse of corruption, some state government agencies in Delhi and Haryana have sought CAG's help in vetting the projects. These agencies have asked CAG to come in at the tendering stage and also be an observer when the projects are being implemented. Is this the way to bring about more transparency in government projects? Will this help in curbing corruption or inordinate delays in projects? More importantly, is the CAG mandated to undertake such a role in the project planning phase? Can an auditor also be part of the executive process and also be an observer of the executive? These and many other questions will crop up if CAG is asked to vet the projects. We will discuss all these questions today and see where the solution lies with a very senior panel of experts. I have with me Sunil Verma, retired Deputy CAG, M. Ramachandran, former Secretary Urban Development in the Government of India, Bhartruhari Mahtab, BJD MP in the Lok Sabha and a member of the Public Accounts Committee, and Priya the Managing Editor of Financial Chronicle. Welcome to all of you. Sunil, I would like to come to you first. Is this a new proposal that some agencies are saying that you please come in at the at the initial stage only, you be part of the whole process, you sit there when the tendering process is on. Is this something which the CAG should undertake?
First of all, it's not a new proposal.
Okay.
When I was working with the Ministry of Defence between 2000 2005, the then Defence Secretary had in fact suggested something along these lines.
Okay.
And if you go back in time, historically speaking as well, there is the word controller to contend with. Controller means has a certain connotation, which includes something like a pre-audit.
Okay.
And historically, the CAG has authorized salary, authorized pension, authorized provident fund, and to this day, the accountants general of various states compile the accounts of the states. So it isn't as though the CAG is not already doing some functions which are not strictly audit.
Okay.
So that's only one part of the story. Naturally, an idea like this, the first reaction is a certain amount of discomfort because there is an inherent conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
In something like this. For me personally, it takes me back to the differentiation that I remember even when I joined the service, between what the army used to recognize as test audit, of which it was fairly respectful, and internal audit by the Defence Accounts Department, which it dealt with a lot less circumspection, if I may say so.
What is this test audit?
A test audit is the CAG's audit. They used to describe it as test audit.
Okay.
And internal audit they used to describe in a different fashion. Local audit they used to call it, because that looked at everything, and the Defence Accounts Department's role is that of pre-audit as well. They pre-audit every bill, etc., etc. So that's where the discomfort part comes in, and then there is this whole historical context. However, what I would like to suggest as an alternative, and that is also something that is existing even today, the officers of the Indian Audit and Accounts Department go on deputation from time to time.
Every ministry has
a financial advisor. And in the good old days, all these financial advisors were typically from the Indian Audit and Account Service. It's only over a period of time that other services also began to
encroach on that space.
Get into this space. Get into this. I would use the word encroach, but I feel that we as a service are rather well placed to provide this kind of financial advice, because we are perhaps the only organization which has a global view of the entire working of the entire government.
I'll come back to you. Mr. Ramachandran, you have been the secretary of a huge ministry like urban development, which had multiple tens of thousands of crores as budget. is this the way out? What this, like for instance, the Delhi government, the PWD has asked for one of the project because the Commonwealth Games time, it found you were very much there at that time. All these things happen, and now they're saying, okay, now there is this project, please come and do this. Is that the way out? Is this a sensible solution?
I don't know whether what has been reported is absolutely correct, whether this is what has been asked for.
Yes.
Because anyone who understands the system knows well enough that the CAG does an external audit.
Right.
So whatever is to be done till one reaches that process, that's the lookout of the concerned department or the ministry or whatever it is.
Right.
What is probably required is strengthening the internal audit system, which is a somewhat weak subject
when you
today.
Say internal audit system of every ministry, department?
Every ministry or department.
Yes.
I don't think the onus can be shifted straight onto the CAG saying that you have been making comments.
So come and handle it.
So now you run the government.
Yeah.
That's not the way one looks at it. And I recall in service we used to say that the 3 C's should be asked to run the government. Each
3 C's.
That's what one used to say.
What are the 3 C's?
That is the CAG, the Central Vigilance Commissioner, plus the inquiry body. So one used to say this, but it's not correct to look at it that way because each entity, especially the constitutional body, is mandated with a certain task. I can understand there are instances where the government seeks the advice of CAG in certain matters when policies are formulated. I suppose CAG provides that type of advice when asked for. But that does not mean that CAG is committed to stand by that when an audit is undertaken. So
and that advice given by the CAG when asked is not binding also?
No, that is, they do not commit that at the time of audit. They will be held responsible for the policy advice given. It's up to the government to go through the policy advice and take a decision.
Right.
So what is important is in the government systems have to be such that one, transparency has to be there to the full extent possible. Those who take right decisions and those who approach it in the right manner need to be protected. The indecision which you referred to is something which has emerged over a period of time.
Right.
Since you referred to the Commonwealth Games,
yes.
Since I have an experience of that,
yes.
Though personal factors need not be brought in, but just to cite an example, the Commonwealth Games village had to get ready by a certain point in time.
Absolutely.
It was not something which could be done over 5 years or 7 years or 9 years like some of the missions are.
Not just Commonwealth Games village, but many other projects.
Yeah, I'm taking one single example.
Yes.
Now, if that has to be got ready, if there is a problem in that, one has to find a way out. But it cannot be a corrupt way of doing things. It has to be a transparent way of doing things.
Right.
If that is done, and then if someone looks at it and says that, oh, this has meant some sort of loss to government, there is a problem there. So the right type of decisions taken in the larger interest and within the ambit of the policy which the government wants to pursue, someone has to stand by that.
Right.
If there is no one to stand by that, then this type of stalemate will continue, that no one wants to take a decision. Now, even in this particular case which you referred to, it's a question of how transparent, how solid one's systems are.
Right.
And I think that's all laid down. And there are any number of people who can help in the process, contribute in the process, like the internal financial system is there, internal audit is possible. There are any number of reports by the CAG which one can go through in relevant instances, and one has to go ahead by taking the right decision. But for that, what is important is at the political level, at the civil service level, the commitment and the transparency both become important as far as decision making is concerned. And if there is something lacking in that, the system itself has to correct that.
Okay, interesting. We'll discuss a few other things later. But let me go to Mr. Mahtab. Mr. Mahtab, you have been a member of the PAC for quite some time now. Do you see this kind of a suggestion coming from some government department saying that obviously it has come out of a certain amount of frustration. It has also come out of certain amount of guilt, maybe, saying that, okay, you guys keep on pointing fingers at us. Now please come and help us at the stage of project, when the project is still in the initial stages. How do you see this?
I feel it is like shirking one's responsibility.
Yes.
Very rightly, the reaction, as has been reported today in a newspaper,
yes,
the CAG has, or someone from the CAG has said that we do not delve into the executive matters.
Absolutely.
Constitution has spelled it very clearly. What is the role of Comptroller and Auditor General?
Right.
But I don't think this is just a matter of certain department which has come out with this type of suggestion.
Right.
I believe it is the attitude of the government and the ruling party that is there, who have been deliberately denigrating the office of CAG. And the matter that has been reported today is relating to the national highway from Udaipur relating to Rajasthan.
That is one of the
Udaipur to Ahmedabad.
That is one of the projects. There are other things also.
That is one. Yes. One of the projects. And there the suggestion has come that you come and see how to make the tendering process transparent. Right. Is this the job of CAG? I'm really aghast. The manner in which the party in power today is behaving with CAG is really very appalling. Comptroller and Auditor General has to report after the expenditure has been done. Comptroller and Auditor General also comments on certain policy which brings in losses to the exchequer. Comptroller and Auditor General has no business to go into the execution of certain project, as has been very rightly stated now.
Right.
We have to ensure transparency and the decision-making process. We have a Chief Vigilance Commission.
Right.
And they can also go into the nitty-gritty when the thing is being executed. And if there is something, you have an internal audit mechanism, you have an internal vigilance officer, you have a financial advisor. These are all inbuilt in the system.
Right.
And if that doesn't help you, why do you ask the support of CAG, who is supposed to find out whether the money has been truly spent?
Okay.
I fail to understand. This is really preposterous. It is only in our country this type of suggestion has come. In no other democratic country, anyone would dare from the executive to give this type of suggestion to CAG.
But Mr.
That
Mehta,
too so openly.
but
unless the political masters have vetted this suggestion.
Okay. I'll come back to you. Priya Ranjan. You know, it's very, very interesting. I mean, he's an opposition member, but he has been a very senior member in the PAC. So he says that, you know, there is some political vetting behind this suggestion, which is a very interesting thing which he makes. But how do you see this overall suggestion coming from the government department itself? Is this something which is viable? Okay, right now it said that the CAG may not have a mandate, but who can stop everybody from working out this system and bringing in the system so that in future at least these kind of problems, scams don't come up?
Well, like one of the previous speakers has pointed out, this kind of a pre-audit is not very new. If you recall, during the NDA time too, when you had the huge controversy over the disinvestment of Balco,
right.
Then Disinvestment Minister Mr. Arun Sori, in fact, wanted all disinvestment files before the decision is taken in terms of giving the public sector unit, handing it over, actually selling the unit, the CAG to first look into it and come out with a report on valuation and other things, and only then the government would execute it. Now, what came of it, we all know, nothing came of it. So this kind of a situation is not new. One has to look at as to why such a situation arises.
Why exactly? Why such a situation has arisen?
Now, there has been a mention of the 3C, which is a real situation. Now, in the particular case of CAG, if you look at the recent experience, there has been sensationalization and politicization of the reports and the observations made by CAG.
Right.
As a result, we have come into a public discourse which has become politicized and sensational rather than the serious financial accountability that CAG reports are supposed to fix.
Right.
Now, what is, we as a country, if you go back a little bit, you'll see that we've been swinging from extremes to extremes.
One extreme to the other.
Now, what was for years, if you look at the CAG reports, those have gathered dust. After having been made to place in Parliament through the President of India. Then you have a PSC which is supposed to examine those and then come up with a report to Parliament and action taken on CAG. Now, can we recall as to on what kind of CAG reports, what actions, follow-up actions actually have been taken? There are very few, very little that you can see historically that this has.
So what you're trying to say
what I'm
is these reports.
What I'm saying is,
yes.
invariably we've seen PSC, which is supposed to be, chaired by a leader from the opposition benches, and thereby it is supposed to be kept outside the hurly-burly of day-to-day kind of politics and sensationalization, not to, to say the least, has of late been, so there has been charges and counter charges whether CAG has been, there has been an overreach on the part of CAG. CAG on the other hand, you will recall, has had, I would say they are also partly responsible for it, because instead of disabusing, the various concepts that's been, the popular misconceptions which have been created deliberately, they have in fact added and abated to that by calling press conferences and, interacting with the media and sensationalizing it themselves.
I think you have made very interesting points. We will discuss this when we come back, but we need to go into a very short break now. Please keep watching. We'll come back and continue this discussion. It's very interesting where it will head. Please keep watching. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. We are discussing about some proposals being made by certain government departments that CAG vets the projects before it is even allotted. Mr. Mahtab, two things which I think Ranjan made, 2 points which Ranjan made is very interesting. He says that why it has reached this stage is also because of the way the whole reports, the CAG reports are getting politicized, how this is becoming it's getting sensationalized, even the opposition is also responsible for it. So, this stage has been reached because of the sensationalization of the reports of the CAG.
I would say nobody debars CAG to declare what is there in the report, to address the media, because ultimately it is for the people to judge what is the report, and that's how it is placed in the Parliament, for the people to judge. It is the Public Accounts Committee which goes into the details, and that I always hold the view that is the second post-mortem which is done by PSC, where the concerned ministry and the concerned department are asked to explain if they have anything more to say. But before a CAG report is prepared, adequate opportunity is given to the concerned ministry officials and also to the department to explain
Mr. Mahtab,
their conduct.
Mr. Mahtab, that is fine, but
I would not say, I would not say the sensationalization.
Yes.
I'm coming to that aspect.
Yes.
I'm coming to that aspect. When something happens relating to the defense purchase, relating to the security of this country, if some parliament member or a group of parliament members raises it in the house, should we call it sensationalization? When crores and crores of money or hundreds of crores of money is wasted and is embezzled,
I don't think
then don't you think it should be ventilated in the media?
Mr. Mahtab, I don't think anybody is objecting to
what is being raised in the house. But we should not say this is sensationalization.
What is raised in the house is nobody, I don't think, has any objection to it. Yes, very quickly.
The point to be made is revenue lost to the government is not necessarily corruption always. Neither it is a scam.
Okay.
So,
let me get...
not necessarily always that is the case.
Mr. Ramachandran. Mr. Ramachandran, he says that why it has come to this stage is partly because the executive has also been responsible for it, the political executive also has been responsible for this. So, is this a way of escaping responsibility as Mr. Mahtab suggests?
No, as mentioned, the role of the CAG has to be respected.
Yes.
Now, when does the CAG come in and how does the CAG come in? And if there are problems in the governance per se, that's where the problems come in. So, it's a question of how the governance as a factor is administered in our country. I think there is a point of concern that governance, instead of improving, is probably
deteriorating. Okay.
That seems to be the basic
another important point which I want to flag here, since you were in a ministry where a lot of PPP projects, private public projects have been. See, now let us assume that this suggestion that the CAG plays a role before at that earlier stage. How would this PPP, how would the private partners take this kind of a, would they see it as an encroachment? Would they see it as too much of scrutiny?
It all depends on how much time is consumed in all these things. If this means another layer and whatever amount of time is to be taken, there is no control on that, then one has to look at the economics of it. The financials are calculated. There is a certain loan to be worked out. There is an interest repayment and revenue to be given to the government. All these factors would come in. So like, I am now firmly of the view that when we take up a project, let's have a pre-project period, in the sense that all the formalities which need to be completed, they get completed, and then the actual start of the project.
Can at that stage CAG play a role?
If it is decided that the CAG would be brought in as far as the process of awarding projects is concerned, I still don't believe that's the role of the CAG, and the CAG would want to have that role.
And that would not help in any way in improvement of the situation.
No, we have inbuilt mechanisms already, as I said. We have to look within. There is a financial advisor, there is an internal audit, there are any number of reports. And if with more transparency, it should be possible. If there are some doubts coming up, those doubts would get raised and those could be addressed. So the role of the executive has to be performed by the executive. I don't think it can be shifted to another level.
Sunil?
I would only supplement what Mr. Ramachandran has said, quite rightly, that whatever has to happen within the executive.
Despite what you said in your initial observation, that the CAG has... CAG is playing certain roles which it is not supposed to.
The CAG has historically played certain roles because of, I think, the history of the CAG, in the sense of it comes from British times, and the British, I think, when they called him Comptroller and Auditor General, they wanted him to be a Comptroller in addition to being the Auditor General, and so he was. I think all the salaries of the entire government officers used to be disbursed by the.
That is a different matter than what the present issue.
Similarly, the compilation of accounts. There are a number of things like that which amount to executive, administrative areas of functionality, which the CAG was historically involved in. But anyway, putting that aside, I think this suggestion, first of all, it's not new. It's been coming again and again. I recollect during my tenure in the Ministry of Defence, DO letters were written by the then Defence Secretary, and the CAG of India responded to them, etc., etc. The best via media is to ensure that the internal mechanisms that exist within the ministerial system are strengthened, and the financial advice system is a very key part of that.
Mr. Mahtab, do you think, that these systems, the internal systems are giving away now? Do you think that the internal systems have come under strain because the number of cases, number of instances where the CAG has pointed out? Do you think there is a problem with the internal systems?
I think there is some disconnect somewhere within the executive. When certain decisions are being taken in the policy level, when certain projects are being executed, there is some disconnect somewhere. Because repeatedly I have found in number of CAG reports, when we have discussed it in PSC also, and during our visit to different fields, we have seen the internal audit mechanism is failing. And number of issues which have been bought, because CAG only test checks. It's just sample checking.
Absolutely.
It doesn't go into the full auditing mechanism of any department. We only CAG only picks up certain things. PSC also makes certain selective deliberations. So in that respect, I would say it is the executive which is to strengthen itself to a greater extent, to bring in more transparency. Then only we can have a better governance.
What does the PSC feel about it? Has the PSC deliberated on this? Has it been in discussion with the government about this, what you call as failing of the systems, internal systems? What has been the response of the government to all these things?
We have. I would say during the last tenure, that is 14th Lok Sabha, it came to our notice that a number of CAG audit reports are not being responded to by the concerned department and ministries.
Right.
So we had to call the cabinet secretary, we had to talk to the expenditure secretary, and then a time frame was fixed. Within 6 or 8 months time, we could get all the things which were pending before the government for action taken, that were also complied to. So it all depends how far active the PSC will be and how far supportive the government would be. But it is the responsibility of the executive to make our responsibility as the PSC is to make the executive responsible before the legislature.
Right.
And this is the only mechanism where the executive is becoming responsible to the people or the people's representative.
Right. Mr. Ramachandran, so, you know, do you see that internal systems failing, and why is it failing?
As I mentioned, the governance system, rather than improve, there is something wrong.
Why?
Wrong with the system. I mean, there are a whole lot of factors. I think we need to look at.
You know, the spotlight on these CAG reports, the excessive spotlight on these CAG reports, is that leading to that kind of a mindset within the executive?
No, that is for the moment, because there are so many such reports and so many matters getting reported.
Yes.
That if there is a tendency of indecision or delayed decision, partly at the moment it is so. But the larger issue is the governance per se. Though we have commissions to look into and all these things, the minute aspects of governance, that does not get looked into. Where systems need to be strengthened, that does not happen. Where there is hurried decision making, what needs to be done to take corrective steps there, that does not happen. So there are some internal problems. Government keeps on expanding, activities, more of activities are taken up, but commensurate with that, whether there are strong systems within, that is something which is important.
Okay. On that note, we need to end the program, but it's very interesting, and it's quite evident that this suggestion has come out of frustration, and everybody here feels that the executive needs to do its job and not pass on the buck to an auditing body. So we will see how this whole proposal, if it gets more play in the coming months. We will wait and watch. But thanks to all my guests, Mr. Bhartruhari, Mahtab, Sunil Verma, Mr. Ramachandran, and Priya Ranjan. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time tomorrow.